My name is Lauren Reedy, formerly known as Lauren Squires, and sometimes known as Lauren Squires Reedy. It's complicated. Just like my name has evolved over the years, so has my identity. And so tonight I'm going to be telling you a little bit about how a combination of sensationalism and a moment in juvenile court hall changed my path. I should tell you the title of my talk is a bit like the clickbait that I used to write. I've never liked being put in a box, which is extremely ironic considering I was literally in a box in people's homes for over a decade. My mom took those photos, by the way. This is a photo of me in August of 2003. I was a senior in high school working at a TV station as a camera operator with a dream to be a broadcast news, television, sports reporter. I pursued that dream, and over the next decade, I worked in Dubuque, Iowa, Omaha, and eventually Memphis. First 6 months here, I went to the White House, I saw the Obamas, Justin Timberlake, the NCAA tournaments, and a couple of snow flurries here and there. It was all really awesome until it wasn't. And that's because I started to notice a common theme. I was constantly chasing police tape, breaking news, crime, negative things, and never really following up on the story or offering any sort of solution. Sure, every once in a while I'd get a good story. My friends even knew me as the positive news girl, but I was becoming a bitter, cynical person. And then the Kroger mob attacks happened. If you all remember that, a group of teens randomly attacked a Kroger employee, and it was all captured on vertical video. The video went viral, and it was shared across the country, millions of views, and it put Memphis on the map for yet another negative story about young black teens, and it was perpetuating fear and racism in our city. This story doesn't end happily, but there's a part of this story you probably didn't hear about, and it happened in a juvenile court hall where cameras aren't allowed. Go figure. I covered the story, and a year after this incident happened, the final hearing in juvenile court took place. The main suspect went and testified that he did all of this to impress a girl. And then the victim got up there and said he was traumatized, and he still has nightmares about what happened to him that night. So afterwards, as you can imagine, me, sort of a bitter person, getting really upset on behalf of the family, walked out into the hallway and saw this. This is an illegal photo that I took in the hallway of the two suspects' mothers approaching the victim and his father. And the mother said, "I'm so sorry for what my son did to your son, and I wish that he was here to apologize in person." And I was ready for a fight because that's what I'm used to covering, and instead, the son looked at the mothers and said, "Tell them I forgive them." Now let that sink in for a second because it took me a long time to process what that meant, but I knew I had a newfound reason to tell this story. I left juvenile court and I wanted to tell the whole city because I wanted people to feel that moment of forgiveness and maybe move on from what happened. It was only a line in my final story that night, preceded by a tabloid-like testimony about how he did it to impress a girl. And that story didn't get nearly the clicks or views or likes and shares that the original vertical video got more than a year before. You see, what I didn't realize is that was the moment that I began to leave television news. Over the course of the next 18 months and a much longer conversation, I started to realize that just because you're good at something doesn't mean you should do it. And just because the world tells you to hustle and pursue your goals doesn't mean you have to. So on March 1st, 2016, 6 p.m., my last final newscast, ironically, cut off due to technical difficulty. The very next day, I made a list of stories I could never tell thanks to the suggestion of a friend, and that became Contagious Giving. Now I get to tell the story of Baby Winnie in the Memphis Zoo. You all know who that is, right? And I get to capture moments like this, a patient surprising a doctor at Regional 1, thanking him for saving his life. And I still get to tell national stories, like this one. This is a volunteer barber at Brewster Elementary who spends his time there. We did this story on our Facebook page, and a month later, it was featured on the Today Show, putting Memphis on the map for positive news, and man, was that fulfilling. Yes, exactly. Now, don't get me wrong, there are plenty of good, integrity-filled journalists still out there fighting the good fight, but what I've learned over the course of the last 5 years is that I'm not defined by my work. I'm defined by my heart. And sometimes your heart calls you in a new direction, and when you pursue that new direction, that's really where you find your true dreams. Thank you, and good night.